So how do eighth notes work with this foot counting and foot pattern system? Well, it's pretty straightforward if we remember our subdivisions. We are going to go ahead and write in count 1 for our quarter note, count 2 for count 2. I'm going to skip count 3 and go straight to count 4 for now. That's old stuff. We know that. Just basic quarter notes. I can go and do the foot patterns for those too, just like last time. Down, up, and down, up. Now, an eighth note, we know that 2 eighth notes are going to fit inside of 1 quarter note. So I've got both of these eighth notes in one beat. So the first one's going to be count 3. And then you probably already know that this is going to be an and. So we would count that 1, 2, 3, and 4 in time. So what this looks like in our foot pattern, every time we have a number, we have a down. Every time we have an and, our foot is going back up. If we are counting that as our foot's tapping, down, up, 1 and 2 and. Every time we have a number, we have a down. Every time we have an and, we have an up. This foot pattern, this down and up, are split up because we have 2 separate notes. One other thing that we have our students do, and we feel this is very important for keeping time when a metronome's not running, we have them add the subdivisions in to the lowest note value in a measure. So I've got eighth notes here. I need to include the and of 1, the and of 2, and the and of 4 in my counts. They're already in the foot patterns. That's what the ups are. So just like in the last video, we wrote the small 2, 3s, whatever, under the whole notes and half notes. We're going to write small ands because that and, that second eighth note, still exists within that quarter note, right? Because I can fit 2 eighth notes in 1 quarter note. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. Easy enough. Rests, eighth rest, are going to work the same way as eighth notes would, as rest would. So I've got my quarter note. I'm going to write big 1 and again little and because that second eighth note, that eighth note is still in here. Big 2 for count 2. This eighth rest is happening on the and of 2, and I'm going to put it in parentheses because it is a rest. It's going to be silent when I clap it or when I play it. Count 3, big 3, little and, big 4, little and for our subdivisions. Foot patterns here, down, up for 1 and, 2 is down, and is up, and they are separate because these are different notes. My up for count 2 is going to be in parentheses because, again, it's a rest. It's going to be silent. Count 3, 3 and, down, up. And then count 4, 4 and, down, up there as well. In the next measure, we have a syncopated pattern. And I think this really helps kids understand how syncopation feels. Syncopation is when we have a stress on an upbeat. So if I write my counts in here, this eighth note is only half a beat, so it's only going to be count 1. I have not used the and of 1 yet. The and of 1 starts on this quarter note, so I'm going to write a big and, but I'm not done with this quarter note yet. I've only used the first half of it. The second half of this quarter note is going to be a little 2. So this quarter note kind of bridges the gap between counts 1 and 2. This eighth note puts me at the and of 2 because, again, I only use the first half of 2 for that quarter note. And then I'm back to just straight quarter notes. Big 3, little and, big 4, little and. And here's the neat part that I think really helps kids. So count 1, remember, every time I have a number, my foot goes down. Every time I have an and, my foot goes up, but it's going to come right back down. So I just came down. Now I'm going to go and 2, up, down. I have an and, up, 3 and, down, up, 4 and, down, up. I like this because it shows you exactly where your foot is going to be when you're clapping this, when you're playing this. 1 and 3 and 4 and, down, up, up, down, up, down, up. moving on to how we use this system with dotted quarter notes. And again, we're assuming here that you understand that a dot adds half of the note that is attached to itself. So a quarter note is worth 1 beat. The dot adds half a beat. This dotted quarter note is worth 1.5 beats, or 3/8 notes. So that's going to be important for how the counts and how the foot patterns lay in here. If we start with our quarter notes at the beginning, that's easy by this point. Big 1 little and, big 2 little and, foot pattern, down up for 1 and, down up for 2 and. Now my dotted quarter note, I'm going to start on count 3, big 3, and then I have, that's my first, I like to think of this as my first eighth note. There are 2 eighth notes in a quarter note. There are going to be 3 eighth notes in here. So my first eighth note is going to be count 3. My second eighth note, my second part, is going to be the and of 3, but I'm still not done. I need little 4, and that's my third part, my third eighth note in my dotted quarter note. So I'm now done with my dotted quarter. All that's left over is my very last eighth note of the measure, which is going to be the and of 4. Now, maybe you figured it out by now. Our foot pattern here, again, every time we have a number, we go down. Every time we have an and, we go up. So this should look like down, up, down, number and number, 3 and 4. Down, up, down. And then that sets us up for our last and, our last up beat. So every measure in 4/4 at least has 4 numbers and 4 ands, which means there are 4 downs and 4 ups. Moving on to the next measure, where we're just going to flip that rhythm around. I have 1 and, big 2 little and, down up, down up. Now here I've just flipped this measure, this rhythm around here. So my eighth note here is just count 3. I have not used the and of 3 yet. My foot pattern here is just going to be a down. My and of 3 is going to start this dotted quarter note, and then I'm going to finish it with a little 4 and a little and, because I need all 3 parts, all 3 of those eighth notes in there. Now this time I've got and, 4, and. If all my ands are ups, that should be up, down, up. Up, down, up. And again, you can double check yourself that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 downs and 1, 2, 3, 4 ups.